I would say that in my population, the early childhood population, they're the same challenges that there are in the greater population. We see a high rate of obesity in a lot of our children. There is a lack of good food sometimes for families that are struggling because it's cheaper to buy, the high carb, right off processed stuff than some of the more, labor intensive, have to make it our own, but healthier quality food.
Personal connection is what's drawing that demand. I mean, we can't make you eat what you don't want to eat. So if you look at kind of who we are and who we people, if we're having a hard time with grasping our language, it's like grasping on something. So we're all connected to food in some way, somehow. And 90% or even more percentage of that, of our white corn that's being processed, is being consumed right here.
It's a personal passion of mine. I incorporate nutrition, obviously, in the education that I provide, and our community is very rich in that area because we have many different programs that grow the food, harvest the food, package the food, and eventually it's available to community members. I think that is, very beneficial. I attended the Native American Food Summit in Minnesota, and they had talked about the health benefits of Native Americans going back to their indigenous diet to decrease health problems. Makes sense. You're eating fresh game, wild rice, the veggies that are grown and indigenous to you. I don't think we would have problems with obesity, diabetes, asthma. Sometimes they say is triggered by foods. So it just is a very good solution to a lot of our problems in our community. It's been around for a while, but it's slowly growing, and it's a great thing. You can go to the Oneida One Stop, and they have a market area. You can get teas. They have natural supplements, maple syrup, corn soup. These are all indigenous food to us. At the One Stops, you can purchase those. The cannery is where they process the food and package it. So it's an upcoming business, and I think it's going in the right direction, and I always promote it. I teach childbirth education. I'm a certified instructor for that. I teach Lamaze 3 times a year here for the community members, and I incorporate that into my education. We talk about reading labels. Well, it's not going to do any good if they're reading labels of a mac and cheese versus can you afford and do you have access to fresh fruits and veggies, indigenous food. So just at least tapping into that idea and getting that out there, let's go back to what our bodies are used to, and it would omit a lot of health problems. So very proud of that for our community, and doing the best I can to spread the word, and especially this population with women being pregnant. A lot of the women gain more than what is recommended. So right off the bat, they are struggling with obesity after their first child. So I meet with them and we talk about nutrition, tell me about what you're eating, and they work closely also with the WIC department. So it ties in many aspects. Healthy Start also is able to incorporate culture. So once again, we talk about our creation story, and it brings up our 3 main sustenance, which is corn, beans, and squash. So once we bring that in, and a lot of this too is loss of identity. A lot of the clients literally feel lost or empty because they don't have a sense of culture or religion. So if we start with that, and they have been in contact, we're very fortunate again to have that culture component in our community. We have 2 staff members at the they call it Cultural Wellness Center, I believe, and they can teach community members, their clan, the creation story, language, the ceremonies, traditional ceremonies. And then once you start to learn that, you can see how that indigenous food just naturally, just incorporates into your life.
Well, we had a little pilot this summer uh, with our foods program, and we have a farmers market in Oneida, and that's been in place, I believe, for at least 5+ years, maybe longer. And that farmers market once a week on Thursdays has been well received in the community, and there's a lot of good produce and healthy foods that are available to community members. So we had a partnership with the farmers market, the team, the food program, where we piloted kids in our pediatric department that were screened for high risk, and they had metabolic syndrome or were high risk for diabetes, and we actually wrote out a prescription, and that they took that prescription to the farmers market, and they were eligible for free produce, healthy foods. So there's partnerships happening at every level, and our mission really is public health focused and prevention focused. So if we could improve the lifestyles and the eating habits, and our community was more active, we can impact all these chronic illnesses that primarily lifestyle diseases.
I think another example of that partnership as well with Indigenous Foods has to do with a lot of our events. When we have events such as the Just Move It Oneida events, a lot of the traditional foods are served. We have corn mush, which is served as a meal for some of the walks in the morning. We have corn soup, which is utilizing the white corn, which is served as a lunch for some of the walks, and as a dinner for some of the walks. So we try to incorporate a lot of that Indigenous foods that are available to the community in the events that we sponsor. One of the other things that we do with the school system is that we offer the white corn on a monthly basis through the food service program within the school system. We also purchase a lot of the nation's beef and buffalo that's also offered on the school's menus. And then the partnership is our nutritionists from here are the consultants for the school system, for the Head Starts, and for the daycare. So wherever there's food served, that gets incorporated into the menus as well. And they do an analysis of the menus to make sure that we're meeting all the compliance in terms of, DPI or any of the other state requirements, because they also do serve as a consultant for the Anna John Resident Center and Care Community as well. So they monitor all of those diets, all of those menu planning, so that we have input into those processes for the nation.
People are already noticing that there have been changes in the food that's available to them. Patterns of migration are different. Where news used to be available and plentiful, today you don't see them as much or at all in some places where they used to be. And so things are definitely changing, and people depend on these food sources to sustain them. Well, there are a lot of people that depend on the land to sustain them. So things like wild rice or venison, especially fish in the Great Lakes region. And when you have industry that is potentially contaminating food sources, be it venison or fish, that can certainly impact people's well-being, not being able to practice those traditional ways of hunting and gathering. And people really depend on that, not only for themselves and their meals, but there's a lot of industry wrapped around that as well at the local level. Traditional diet is a healthy diet. These are foods that are nutrient dense, low in fat. Foods like strawberries or hazelnuts or venison, those are all whole, good, slow foods, and to not be able to have access to that anymore. What does that do to a person's health if you're dependent on Western food systems? Eating processed foods that are not traditional, your body's not designed to consume
My work with climate change is a daily thing. I'm a farmer and a gardener, so I see like how much the changing climate has affected plant growth. I currently grow indigenous seeds and heritage seeds that are culturally significant to the Ho-Chunk Nation. So not being able to learn, I guess really what maybe 50 years ago, it took the corn 45 days to mature. And now with the adjusting climate, maybe it doesn't fully mature because it gets too hot or too cold or too wet. So it's been almost like a daily struggle to learn exactly what those plants need from me and how I can better grow them or have better growing conditions for them in the future. Indirectly, my work with food, it affects everybody within the tribe. If I'm growing culturally significant foods, we need to be able to have that for all of our ceremonies and all of our get-togethers. So being able to provide that food, that's what's important to me, and that's what makes me be more of an advocate for climate change. Really, we've become so disconnected with our food system. You know, like 100 years ago, if you didn't grow it or hunt it, you didn't eat it. And with, you know, like modern conveniences, those have really gotten us to forget exactly where our food comes from. So that's why it's so important to me, is like, that's become an important part of my life, and I want to be able to share that with other tribal members.
Food security is a significant risk from climate change. The nearly 900 million people at risk today, that could double by mid-century according to some climate models that show, especially in the tropics, that food crops will be, the temperatures will exceed the growing climate-suitable envelope for food crops. So worldwide, there's a real concern about food security.